The head of the UN Refugee Agency said it's time for the international community to show solidarity with the Lebanese people by offering assistance to a country that has hosted hundreds of thousands of refugees for decades. UN High Commissioner for Refugees Filippo Grandi also said the UNHCR is making its capacity and expertise as a humanitarian agency available to the Lebanese people and is ready to assist the country as part of a broader international response. Lebanon has been going through multiple crises, including widespread corruption, political divisions, and economic difficulties, and Grandi said the international community should find long-term interventions to assist. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu threatened to assassinate top Hamas and Jihad officials in the Gaza Strip if the escalations continued, warning that every incendiary balloon is considered a missile. Speaking before the Negev lobby, Netanyahu announced that he informed the heads of local councils in the area adjacent to the Strip of his absolute commitment to security. He asserted that Israel is ready to use all means, including targeted countermeasures, if things develop, adding that Hamas has an interest in allowing normal life on its side and Israel will not allow the absence of normal life on its side. The United Nations has warned that most UN major humanitarian programs in Yemen would shut down, including at least 70% of schools and 50% of water and sanitation services, if funding is not urgently received in the next weeks. Already 12 of the UN's 38 major programs are shut or drastically reduced. Between August and September, 20 programs face further reductions or closure, the UN said in a statement on Wednesday. The warning comes as violations committed by Houthi militias against Yemenis, including the delivery of humanitarian aid, are on the rise. Germany issued a warning against travel to parts of Croatia as Europe's largest economy battles to contain a rising number of coronavirus cases during the summer season. The German Foreign Ministry advised against travel to two regions which are popular with tourists after the Public Health Agency declared them coronavirus risk regions, making tests for returnees mandatory. The number of new cases in Germany has been rising steadily since early July and has accelerated in recent weeks. On Thursday, the number of confirmed cases climbed by 1,707 to 228,621, marking their biggest daily increase since April 26th. Iranian foreign minister sent a letter to the United Nations calling on members of the Security Council to reject Washington's push against his country, saying the United States has no right to trigger a return of all UN sanctions on Iran. The letter has been submitted to the head of UN Security Council by Iran's envoy. US President Donald Trump earlier announced that his administration will activate the controversial mechanism aimed at reimposing UN sanctions on Iran. The Iraqi delegation, headed by Prime Minister Mustafa al-Kadhimi, began its official visit to Washington by holding talks with U.S. officials on the economy, energy, health, and investment. The strategic dialogue aims to review the security and political agreement signed between Iraq and the U.S. in 2008 and determines the future framework for the relationship between both countries. Kadhimi is trying to obtain U.S. support to confront his country's stifling economic and health crisis. China faced demands to explain why a state-backed firm claimed it had vaccinated dozens of staff against the coronavirus before sending them back to work at a mine in Papua New Guinea. The China Metallurgical Group Corporation, which controls a major nickel mine in the country, warned local authorities that 48 staff who returned from China this month may test positive for the virus because they had received a vaccine. In response, Papua New Guinea authorities called for immediate clarification from Beijing and blocked a chartered flight full of Chinese workers that was due to land Thursday. Russia is preparing one of the biggest ever test programs in 5 countries, including Saudi Arabia, for its controversial Sputnik V vaccine against the coronavirus disease COVID-19. Kirill Dmitriev, the Russian businessman who has led the development of the vaccine, said that the kingdom would be one of the nations to trial the treatment. More than 40,000 tests would also be rolled out in the next week in Russia, with plans to later extend the testing to Saudi Arabia, the UAE, the Philippines, and either India or Brazil in one of the largest ongoing trials in the world. The US is putting pressure on the UK over the re-imposition of UN sanctions on Iran, following London's abstention on a crucial Security Council vote last week. The UK, France, and Germany, the so-called European Three, all elected to abstain from a proposal by the US to bring back sanctions on Iran previously eased as part of the 2015 Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, commonly known as the Iran nuclear deal, brokered by former US President Barack Obama. Former White House advisor Steve Bannon was arrested on charges that he and 3 others ripped off donors to an online fundraising scheme, We Built the Wall. The charges were contained in an indictment unsealed in Manhattan federal court. Federal prosecutors alleged that Bannon and 3 others orchestrated a scheme to defraud hundreds of thousands of donors in connection with an online crowdfunding campaign that raised more than $25 million to build a wall along the southern border of the United States. The UK has been criticized by a French politician after the death of a young Sudanese migrant who drowned while trying to cross the English Channel from France in an inflatable boat. The 16-year-old's body was discovered on Wednesday on a beach in northern France at Saint-Gate in the Pas de Calais region. A friend who survived the ordeal said that the small vessel ran into trouble in the middle of the waterway. French National Assembly member Pierre-Henri Domen blamed the British government over the boy's death, saying its refusal to allow claims for asylum to be made outside the UK led to the tragedy. Dubai-based airline Emirates expects to resume flights to all network destinations by summer 2021 after the coronavirus pandemic halted most global air travel. The Middle East's largest carrier, which has a fleet of 270 wide-bodied aircraft, halted operations in late March. Shortly afterwards, it resumed limited passenger flights focused on repatriations and has since been gradually expanding its network after Dubai eased travel restrictions to revive its tourism industry. A company owned by Saudi Arabia's Public Investment Fund has agreed to buy 10 H-125 helicopters from Airbus as it broadens its tourism offering. It's part of a plan by the Riyadh-based commercial operator, the Helicopter Company, to boost its fleet and roll out new services across the kingdom related to scenic tourism and aerial work such as filming, banner towing, and surveying. Saudi Arabia is investing heavily in developing its tourism sector and last year started to issue tourism visas on arrival for the first time. Germany and France offered to provide medical care on their soil for Russian opposition leader Alexander Navalny, who is gravely ill after aides said he was poisoned. French President Emmanuel Macron and German Chancellor Angela Merkel said they were deeply concerned at what was happening to Navalny, one of the fiercest critics of Russian President Vladimir Putin. Macron, who hosted Merkel for talks at his summer residence in a medieval island fortress in the Mediterranean, said he had discussed Navalny's illness at length with the German leader.